Welcome to Coin Retrospectives, short histories of old coins. And this is a Flying Eagle cent, minted from 1856 to 1858. It's the first small-size U.S. cent, after the large copper cents were retired in 1857. This is one of the coins that helped to set off coin collecting as a hobby in the United States. When it was introduced, the 1856 Flying Eagle cent was rare already, only having a mintage of 2,000 due to it technically being a pattern or transitional piece. Additionally, after the Flying Eagle cent had been in circulation for a few years and a lot of the old coppers had been traded in, more on that later, people began to grow nostalgic for these large copper cents they'd come to know and had used for most of their lives. Much like someone of my age would get nostalgic for one of the older designs of the $20 note. So these folks grabbed a Dansko's 7099 album, just kidding, those didn't exist yet, and began to collect sets of large cents dating back to 1792. Upon finding out a premium was charged for both the rare 1856 Flying Eagle cent and the rarer large-size copper cents, these early American numismatists began to figure out which coins were worth more than face value, and a coin collecting boom had begun. So why did the mint decide to change the size of the cent in the first place? The first reason should be obvious: money. The price of copper was rising, and by the early 1850s it cost 106 plus cents to make 100 cents. Very many patterns and compositions were trialed, each just not cutting it. Either the steel dies would be damaged, or the coin's color was off, potentially allowing it to be counterfeited easier, or it just didn't strike well. Finally, it was settled on 88% copper and 12% nickel. And because this was the first US coin to contain nickel, they began to be called nickels or nicks. Not confusing at all to us in the 21st century. Our old friend James Longacre, now with much less pressure on his job, began to prepare the final dies in 1856. His final design included an eagle based off of the work of his predecessor Christian Gebrecht, who likely based the eagle off of one Peter Jefferson. A tame eagle kept by mint workers in the early 1830s. I suppose you could say that Mr. Jefferson was the first true Philadelphia eagle. Anyway, Longacre's reverse on the Flying Eagle cent was one he'd used on his design for the $3 gold piece, a wreath with wheat, corn, cotton, and tobacco. On the 25th of May, 1857, the day had come to release the new Flying Eagle cents to the general public. 2 stalls were set up in the mint's courtyard, one for the swap for Spanish silver pieces, still legal tender in the US until 1860, and one for the trades of copper cents. Nearly 3 million cents were distributed in this fashion, and at first the new Flying Eagle cent looked to be a smashing success. However, there were 2 factors working against it, and they would ultimately spell its doom. First, even though the lower nickel content meant that the coin struck well compared to other trialed metallurgic compositions, it still didn't strike well at all due to the high relief. Second, it still wasn't legal tender, and campaigning for folks to trade in money that was legal tender for money that wasn't legal tender was not the best decision that the mint director at the time, James Snowden, ever made. The new cents began to choke commerce because no one had to take them as payment. Without that legal tender status, shopkeepers may as well also accept Schrute bucks. But a few years later, the Civil War happened and all federal coinage was hoarded, requiring another change in metallurgical makeup, a brand new denomination, and finally, legal tender status for the cent in 1864. But by then, the Flying Eagle cent had run its course. In 1859, the Indian head penny was released with a design that was easier to strike on the copper-nickel alloy. So that leaves us with the Flying Eagle cent, minted for only 3 years, but still with a significant impact on United States numismatic history. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing. And as always, leave your 2 cents in the comments, and have a great day.